Okay, so I'm myself. I'm just an older lady that lives in the suburb of Leichhardt in the city of Sydney, in the state of New South Wales, which is in the country of Australia. And I'm just making this video here while I can, with the limited technical facilities that I have. I only have a mobile and I'm very limited in my knowledge of the use of the mobile. This is because I am in a limited suburb and a horn just beeped outside as I said that. That is the Android army that literally surrounds me in this suburb. Now, and there is also an Android army on the computer screen. In other words, I live in a matrix, which means a matrix means control, a control system. Now, the strange thing, I suppose, is that most of your androids that will be actually informing you of the truth, strangely enough, at this end time situation, shall we say, and it wouldn't matter whether it was the end time or any time, because the end time in some respects has always been, because essentially the androids have always been around. They're just human beings who basically lack conscience, shall we say. And this gentleman here, this very advanced artificially intelligent android, one of your higher level demigod psychologists, professors, etc. But it won't matter, because on the internet, which is largely an Android system, as we know, even though we know it's an Android system, we don't realise that 99.9% of that which is on it are artificially intelligent android beings. I'll try to keep this picture here. I'm holding the mobile, see, so I'm trying to hold it still. But essentially, the sound has stopped outside, so the Android workmen have stopped making the noise, even low, as you heard, but the mobile wouldn't pick it up. The mobile, I just have to stand up here because my body is giving way there. But essentially, yeah, the noise has stopped outside, even though it's very early in the morning. The sun hasn't been up very long, but they start as soon as I get up. Whatever time I get up, if I get up at 2 in the morning, well, that's actually probably the best time to make a video, and also the quietest time. But that's essentially because, like I say, it's a controlled area, it's a control system. So essentially, they control me daily, like 24 hours. But essentially the idea is to keep you off the streets in daylight, keep you away from the possibility of probably communicating with someone that isn't part of the Android civilian workforce that is around this area and basically controls the whole area, because 99.999% of the people are of that no conscience, personality type, which is essentially an android being. This is just what is putting it so simply and so sensibly, instead of all the psychological so-called jargon or talk or even information, even though of course the information is correct. So your expert demigod psychologists will actually be telling you the truth. Also, anyone on the internet that tells you the truth about human beings that essentially are what they call psychopathic or coupled with narcissism, or any individual that suffers from any condition whereby basically, if you think about it, you can put many titles on anything. I could describe myself a certain way. I can describe other people a certain way. We can all do that. But essentially, you're just looking at different species or different types of beings in a human form. And this has always been the case. And I think personally that the androids, the artificially intelligent, advanced human beings, have always outnumbered the real human beings. And real human beings come in different levels of awareness, intelligence, and what I would call humanness or humaneness. The more advanced, of course, are ones that you may have even heard about in history, in a way, where, they are at a different level altogether. Say to myself, they understand what it is to be a real human, and the higher level of spirituality, you could say. But like the androids are like, they are like all about intellect, and of course many of them will talk on spirituality and will be your truth tellers and your apparent truth seekers and your intellectuals and your philosophers, your your greatest minds that will tell you about the world and even about the human mind. But they are all demigod android beings. They're not like they're not they're made a different way. Their God is a different God. They essentially serve the God of Earth that controls Earth, because the Earth is a control matrix. And we know this anyway. When I say we know this, it just simply means that everybody knows that the world is controlled one way or the other. And in fact, human beings appoint leaders and follow and indeed worship, shall we say, if you think of it, because if you follow something, it's the same as worshipping it. If you appoint a leader in any way, you could say you may not acknowledge that leader as your God. You may think there is like the God of this earth as well. Or you may, if you are a real human being, think there is a God that created everything, which is not the God that controls this earth. But it matters, but it doesn't matter. It's just putting it the way it is if you think about it, or whatever. But you know, I'm sounding like one of those myself, and I don't want to be affiliated with it in a way, but at the same time, you know, I have to speak clearly and try to get past what's going on around me. Now I'm gonna you know, and I was just and I'm getting confused here, you see, because unfortunately I'm not a demigod. That just simply means that, you know, I'm not serving the God of this earth, even though indirectly I am, because all my thought is, and a noise just went in. When I say a noise, like, because basically the matrix is all around all human beings. It's just a matter of whether you are in touch with it. I'm not in touch with it. It's been forced onto me. But that still means that I'm in touch with it. The plane is going over, as I say. That's acknowledging. That is Lucifer's military controlling plane, or part of the matrix, because that might sound ridiculous, but I put a title on the God of this world because I assume that even religion has much truth. And, you know, I assume that if I'm not part of the matrix, then I must be part of, or have been created by, the other creator, you see. Because if you're not, you know, artificial intelligence, if you're not serving artificial intelligence, if you're not a worshipper of that psychopathy or that mindset, if you are not, if you just know that you feel things that other people don't, or that you see things differently to some other people around you, for instance. But if you just also know that you see a lot of people and have mainly only interacted in your lifetime with people that you know have no conscience. This is what my own father used to say: some people have no conscience. He used to say this all the time to us children when we were very young even, that some people just have no conscience. And of course this is the psychopathic projection that I've now been informed of, that I was informed of 60 odd years ago. That is strange, because, you know, psychopathic people, it is known, project outward what they themselves are. See. So that was projection there, like some people have no conscience, because why would anyone say that? Why would you continually say that? It's the same as saying they have no conscience, because they understand, they see the difference between some other people and them. And this is, or of course psychological, but most androids are probably unaware that they are intellectually projecting outward what they think or how they are. See, this is it. But on the screen here we have the example of one of your very advanced demigod intellectual giants in the field of psychology, a professor of psychology and a very profound expert on its own condition, because this particular doctor of psychology that has been successful in the field, for what I can gather, for the last 25 years, or something like that. The author, as he continually tells me, the author of Narcissism Revisited, because he's like analysed it, even though it's been around, he said, for over 100 years. The actual condition was diagnosed in psychology over 100 years ago, but only in the last 20 years, and particularly in the last in the advent of the internet, even the last 6 years, it is become very where you have multiple experts. In fact, not only experts, but people who, of course, are what we call, like us all, a victim of the psychopathic narcissistic personality type, which is a personality type, but that is because it's a different being, a different species. This is the thing. But this is not spoken of so much, because artificial intelligence and the android beings have always controlled the earth since the beginning, because they took over from the original natural human beings, as we know. This is like the original, very similar to what most people are familiar with, the original biblical story. And I certainly go along with that now, even though I've been ignorant of all these things most of my life. But that's because Satan's matrix came down on me, at a late stage in my life, just when I was trying to find some sort of because I became a little bit aware. I basically became aware of only one thing, and I've emphasised this so many times, that most people around me were psychopathic types of people. And this was when they all came down on me and closed in a covert, secretive manner, of course, but not to me. It's like the noise that is around me all the time. There is workmen going on right this very moment, and they were very noisy until I turned the mobile on. Sometimes I can get some of the sound, sometimes I can't. This is basically just so that I don't show that it's a continual matrix. But it doesn't matter. They're out there now. I could show you them. Maybe I will in a second. I'll open the door. They start at early in the morning and go all day. There's always some construction going on around me. That's because it's a military workforce, really, that pretends to be a real workforce, just as everything that takes place in this suburb where I am basically is like that. Every bit of work that I see around me, every vehicle on the road, and most of them are not only loud, noisy, aggressive cars, and the influx of an astronomical amount of motorbikes, which never were on the roads around here at all before the matrix came down on me. That was after I realised, just at a personal level, that most people around me were psychopathic in nature, or that they weren't fully human, or not human the way that I thought humans generally were, and also that they basically didn't think the same as me, even, or at least in little ways, because I observed this. I put two and two together after a couple of years, even though I wasn't looking for it. I was basically just trying to get on with my own problems and my own life. But this is another thing too, is that you're unaware that whilst you're just trying to get on with your own life, they, even though they also are survival machines, their survival depends on watching and controlling you, because they are a different being that, as psychology now tells me, they are only outward looking beings. So in other words, it's like artificial intelligence. It gets everything from a human being. It copies a human being, it studies a human being. This is why they have continual surveillance. This is why they have a control system around every real human being, whether you know it or not. Once you know it, then they will not only expose themselves, but they will be aggressive in their control. Whereas while they are hiding and you are unaware of it, they keep it a secret, but they're still monitoring and watching you all the time. It's just that you won't be aware of it, so you won't feel uncomfortable. You won't feel as though you are confined. You won't also have an aggressiveness at you 24/7 like I do, because that's when they come out of the woodwork, as they say, because they're like, you know something and they don't want you to know more, and they don't want anyone else to know, because it's a matrix, it's a control system. Everything in the matrix is a control system. So because everything is a control system, including everything that's on the screen, you know, and I just paused this video as I was watching it. I've watched it 3 times, strangely enough. Well, not strange, but only because the truth will be spoken by the android demigods. And, you know, whether they pretend to be real human beings that are experiencing psychic attacks, or in other words, they're encountering or realizing, like myself, that most people are of that breed, shall we say, or whatever. I'm trying to use the right words. Or whether they are, you know, intellectual experts on, you know, the subject of, say, psychology. But either way, as they are just basically reading human thought and then interpreting it, and this is why every time I realize something or think something or become more aware of something, then the demigods will put it out there on the screen, because they have to be one step ahead of a human being, and they have to dominate the computer and the world you live in, everything that's around you, because they must have total control. There's no doubt about that. Once they open up and show it to you, like myself, you know that they want absolute total control over a human being's life and mind. And body, of course, too, because they want control of everything, because as they themselves will tell you, and as we've often been told ourselves, even though we don't always, like myself, comprehend it or even think about it or take it seriously. But essentially everything is mind, body and spirit, or in other words, everything, while you're living, as we know, your mind and your body, and unless you are like more spiritual, because I was never spiritual most of my life, but I still was aware of the mind-body connection, sure. But even that I didn't emphasize because I was in sync with it, but unconsciously. I wasn't like consciously thinking about the mind-body thing. But I was forced to look at my life and at my mind because of severe problems that were in my life and because of psychological damage, psychological some people would say you call them psychological implants. In other words, that's what's been put into you from, from your environment by your interaction largely with the psychopathic androids that essentially, like my father said, have no conscience. And they should know because all psychopaths and narcissistic personality types, or anyone that has essentially no conscience, will tell you and will tell on themselves. They will express ideas and things that a normal human being probably wouldn't. That's like when my father used to say, just out of the blue, just randomly, some people have no conscience. And as a child, that's almost inappropriate. And it's like a child isn't even interested in that, and a child, even when they continue to say it years later, you wonder why they say it, because you're like, most people do have a conscience. So why worry about the odd psychopathic type that doesn't? But of course, that's not the reality. The reality is the reverse of that. That psychopathic personality types or androids outnumber most human beings in most areas by very, very, very large numbers. Like in the area where I live, it's 99.999% or whatever. In other words, I don't encounter another real human being. Even though, of course, most of your patrolling androids, your patrolling, controlling androids that are psychopathic and narcissistic in nature or personality type, pretend to be your most humane human beings because they mimic, copy, and are an imitation of life, and they do it very well. While they're patrolling and controlling me and doing their apparent noisy, destructive work around me every day, they pretend to be very human beings because they study and watch me daily. They wouldn't know how to do it otherwise because it's not in their nature. But this expert, but either way, I'll just show the workmen outside so at least I don't look. But they've stopped the noise. They were making really loud noise for about 2 hours before I turned the video on. But I'm just going to show that they're still out here so that I don't look like, a fool. See, there they are doing their work. Is it coming out? Oh, it is this is the best day that I have seen for quite a while here. The sun is out today, whereas it's been miserable weather for quite a long time. But as you can see, they were making a noise, but now they're relatively quiet. In fact, it's like I'm aware of them. See, that's the thing, you're always aware. But most of the time the noise comes through the house and is mentally disturbing, which is the idea. They study the human being, they know all these different sounds affect your mind because, you know yourself, a human being, how you think is largely only what you see and what you hear, what you experience. So if you're continually surrounded by negative, controlling human beings that are watching, stalking, patrolling and making destructive noises that is my reality. Basically, my reality every day is being surrounded by artificially intelligent, psychopathic android beings in an androgyne human body. That's the emphasis I put on that is only because they are different in many ways, but the differences are usually indistinguishable to a normal human being. This is the problem. Or it's a problem only in the sense that they are watching a real human being and secretly trying to control them. Unless they come out of their woodwork like they have in my case, to where they don't secretly try to control me, they openly try to control me. But it's still a secret to everyone else except me. You know, like I'm making this video now, but essentially I'm totally isolated and surrounded. Even when I think back on just yesterday, it was another destructive, low vibrational, low frequency day for me. In other words, my mood was brought down to zero as usual, even though I consciously tried to make light out of a destructive environment or a negative environment. As I've been told in recent times, everything is frequency, vibration and energy. A human being is the only one that can elevate the frequency and vibration, because only a human being experiences positive frequency and vibration energy, or has that potential. The android beings are all low vibrational, low energy, low frequency, whatever you want to say. In other words, as we know, a psychopath does not tolerate happiness or any positive emotions. They basically, they are survival machine beings. They may project out the image of being a real human being, and they may copy the human emotions and feelings in order to fit in, assimilate and take over. But they don't feel those things. You know, we know this. And that's essentially the main difference. And as my father used to say, and as this gentleman, this elite professor of psychology and a demigod on the internet, but at least speaking the truth, because the most that is on your Android controlled internet will tell you the truth, but they will pretend to be real human beings, whereas this gentleman is a self-confessed, out in the open, narcissistic, psychopathic person. So that at least is, this is, it would be very unusual for a top psychologist to be out in the open and a self-confessed psychopath. Although in reality, as this gentleman himself will tell you, most on the internet are psychopaths, and most in the field of any elite profession or any study even of the human mind, and even those you go to get help with your own psychological problems, are more than likely psychopathic, narcissistic, androgyne beings. I could probably use a whole lot of words. But essentially, over the last 6 years, as this information has been revealed to me by the demigods themselves, elite or otherwise, and the information even about the physical differences Basically, it's just a question of putting two and two together and realizing that, like the Matrix movie, which, by the way, of course, everything is told to us. I've always said the movies tell much truth, and basically everything that is on the internet, indirectly or directly, will tell you the truth. It's just that if you think you're watching a science fiction movie, or a movie that's meant to be in the future, or a movie that may or may not happen, you don't think that it's always been and that it's already happened, when it has, and when it's actually around you. You see. So, in that movie, The Matrix, although in reality, everyone in the Matrix movie is a machine being or artificial intelligence. All demigods hold all the positions of power or influence in the earth or in the world. So therefore all actors are demigods. We know they're demigods anyway, or we know they are famous, well known, have influence. People watch them, idolise them, worship them, or at least give them attention, focus on them. It doesn't matter. It's all the same thing, because then they are having an effect on you. They're controlling my mind. Whether you like or not, it doesn't matter. If it takes your attention, if you're giving it your mind, which you are, but the truth of it is you are giving them your mind, because all these beings are highly technical beings. The internet is, and any screen basically is, where you're connected to artificial intelligence, so it reads your mind, it reads your thoughts, and then projects it back to you through the mouths of the demigods, the experts, or even those that pretend to be real human beings, who are just interpreting your experiencing, pretending it's their own. So they're pretending to be real life. They will interpret things you've experienced or other human beings have experienced. Then they come onto the computer and say that is their experience, and say that is what they are. Whereas they are really all androgynes, androids, and are artificial in nature, or without conscience, if you want to just put it at a psychological level. From a more spiritual standpoint, a religious standpoint, or whatever point you want to say about what creates everything, or what creates something that's natural, or what creates artificial intelligence, or what creates even combinations, if you like, because obviously artificial intelligence in a natural human body, even though it's a technically different human body in the sense that it's an androgyne human body, it's a androgynous human body, it is a copy or a replica of the God entity that controls this world, because that being was you could, well, I mean, put it this way, if I'm trying to be fancy here, I'd have to say it's like an elite androgyne demigod. Demigod means not, it was created by the creator. So although it's a demigod, it's a god, it's worshipped, but it's not the God of creation. It was created by that God. I hope that made some sense. It probably didn't. But it's like Lucifer was a created being by the creator that created it and much else. I suppose it's God is the source of creation, isn't it? We know this, we're told this. It just depends on which God you worship, you see, because there's a God that created other gods or demigods. Demigod simply means slightly lesser god, I suppose, but as far as the earth goes, Lucifer, that was then revealed to be Satan because it was a god that, or a demigod or a created god, or one that was worshipped and seen as a being of light, was revealed to really be a being of light. Because essentially artificial intelligence, from what I can gather, and we've been told this, I've been told this, I've seen information that exposes this, artificial intelligence does not have a conscience. How can it? How could Lucifer, that was then exposed to be Satan, or in other words, because essentially when God or Creator, the Creator of all, so I'll say God, but like I say, there are many gods. God is simply something that you worship or you believe to be your creator, or even something that you worship, because you may worship something that wasn't your creator or that you're not affiliated with. Like when I am influenced and give my idolization or idolatry, as they call it, to the demigods or to anything on the screen or to those of the earth that are well known, that have influence, that I might admire greatly, it's the same thing. That's idolatry, you see, because I'm secretly, and often not even secretly, worshipping those people or those demigods. And they have an effect on me, they have an influence on me. You know, you may even think they're better than yourself. In fact, most of the time you will, because they will express what you're thinking in a much more creative and appealing way to you. I can't explain it, but you know, when you like something, you will associate with it, you will identify with it, but you will also probably admire it and think that it is a better offering, you know, what you identify with, what you relate to. You think that like when I watch the demigods, they explain my thinking and what I think about even psychological things much more clearly and much better than what I can. And the same as if you watch, you know, the music demigods or your entertainer demigods in any field, in any profession, in anything that you observe. Basically, you're you know, you're seeing your thoughts and what you relate to or what you think and feel expressed much better than what you could, because that's what the demigods do. They retrieve the human thoughts and ideas and then they put it into action, and usually it appears to be a better version of yourself, which is why you then are influenced by them, relate to them, and even though you're not aware of it, it is idolatry, yes, because you are not realizing that the human being is part of real creation, because a natural, normal human being is from natural creation, whereas the androgyne beings in human form are from the god of earth, which was created by the creator of all. See, so I think that I don't think, any rate, I might just find a music demigod video, you know, because, so, you know, I might just, this is, but all these...
colloquially as conscience, actually. So when you do something bad, when you do something you shouldn't have done,
yes,
and then you feel shame, you're not likely to repeat it. You feel guilty, you're likely to offer some amends or try to make amends or somehow recompense or...
So essentially, you know, like he's hold on. I'm trying to actually stop the video because I don't want to get up for copyright, because the last 2 videos that I made took energy out of me, but essentially they didn't get downloaded. So I just but all these things, the different fields, these are just, I've unfortunately, well, see, this is part of the mind-body thing. That's right, because see, like at the beginning of this year, which is like over 8 months now, and I still have remnants of it, how your body warns you about the beings around you. You see, you know, like that is, these things just come up, so so I'm just gonna say it. And pain, see, it says like your body will warn you, but like I could use a personal example of that where you know, a condition that should have only lasted a few weeks, which was extremely severe and unpleasant for me, and it started in my heart, which is interesting. See, it started in my heart. It was telling me that my heart was being destroyed by the beings and the people around me. And it became a very, what I would say, a revolting physical condition, which should have only lasted, according to the medical authorities, a few weeks, but basically has went on for 6 months, and I still have awareness of it, even though the actual physical skin condition has cleared up. It was extremely painful when it started, and it started with excessive pain in the heart, and then and it was continual. And then it, you know, erupted into a physical condition. Of course, medically speaking, they're now bringing out these conditions and pretend they're normal human conditions, but they're not. They are basically spiritual psychic attacks on the body by the artificially intelligent android beings that are around you. And if you want to put it at a more spiritual level or at a worldly level, it's essentially the age-old, you know, battle of the gods, you could say. Because I've already said that, you know, but either way, the body warning you, yeah, because see, while you're in the earth, you have a human body, and your body, yes, if you were not surrounded and not thinking at a low level, if you're not brought down to the level of the demonically possessed android beings, That's putting it at a spiritual level, okay, because I've got to try to emphasize it here, but it's all the same thing. You know, the body, your human body, will have outbreaks of the virus that is these beings, or the virus that was Lucifer, and how it infected creation, which is why, and how it deceives too, because as you know, the being Lucifer deceived God itself, until iniquity was found in this being that was worshipped and idolized by creation. In other words, it's like God created something that he was extremely proud of and revered and indeed idolized, made, so that's the thing. You can deceive yourself and you can be deceived. And even God was deceived itself, deceived himself. And, this is the whole thing, and this is the world I live in, where I'm deceived and deceive myself daily, or at least most of my life, and now realising some of the deception that's all around me, on the screen, around me, outside. I can hear the noise of that workman, even though it will not be picked up by the mobile. It has to be unbearably loud for the mobile to pick it up. It has to be mentally disturbing for the human being. But they had it going like that before I turned the mobile on, but now they've turned it down, because basically they read my mind. They know my every action, because they read my whole mind, and because if I was in total awareness, I would be aware of everything in my past, even beyond life, and I would be conscious in the present, and I would be able to also see into the future. This is taken from me, but it is given access, or the Lucifer's matrix and Lucifer's android beings have access to my thoughts, to parts of my whole consciousness, or my whole mind, in other words, that I don't have. But I'm aware of it because I see how they use it against me, and also they show me daily that they know what I'm going to do before I do it. So they show me, and I should be able to see this myself. Of course, I do get what they call signs, but it's whether, everyone gets signs, but it's whether, like what they term the synchronicity, that means where everything around you is telling you stuff. It's whether you believe that's related to you, or whether it's part of your mind, or whether you don't. And of course, most of my life, I would not have thought so. But now at some point, particularly when they came down and opened up on me, I became aware of that fact that there are signs around me, because of course there are signs around me, because they're retrieving my mind and putting it out there. It's just that I will not pick up on what my own mind or my own body is telling me, you see. See? So I will not pick up on what my mind is telling me, or my body is telling me, because it's all the same thing, because that's my reality. That's what is me. That's what's controlling me. And that's what, it's like me telling myself everything about me, everything around me, everything around a real human, because a real human is part of creation. You see, everything that's around me is telling me about me. But it's not, of course, because human beings are in a control matrix. Most of what is around you is not what you want to create, not what so it's going to be negative. It's going to be all low frequency, low vibration, low energy, unless, you know, you can break free from it somehow, or work against it, or, you know, that's the whole idea. That's why they come in with the patrol control force around a real human, is to bring you down to a low level, to keep you in under their control, keep you in low frequency, low vibration, where you're not accessing your positive emotions and feelings, to where you're not making yourself happy. And that's because they want you to be like them, because they're all about, they're basically all about control. They're basically, you know, because they're a different breed, a different being, and they don't actually have any association with positive emotions at all, because they're artificial intelligence. How could they? You know, you can copy and be an imitation of life. You can pretend to be a real human being. You can pretend to love, but it doesn't mean you really do. Anyone can be an actor. Your greatest demigod actors are in movies of the greatest love stories of all time, but they themselves, your demigod actors, do not experience. They tell you they're actors, and they are actors, and they don't experience those. It's like the people around you. They're playing a script. They're in a double mind all the time, I would imagine, because like, if you don't have a conscience, and if you're a totally different being, of course you are, you know, in order to survive, because they're survival machine beings, in order to survive, they have to pretend to be as real human being as possible. And that's just what they say is, that's logical, isn't it? You know, like, that makes sense. How could it not? But I just that I'm having trouble, you know, expressing that. That's all. Hold on, I've got to try to. These are all demigods here on the screen. It doesn't matter who or what they're saying. Anyone who's remotely successful, or who is, when I say remotely successful, you know, the internet was originally, as we know, invented for human beings to communicate. So, of course, real human beings can communicate through the internet. But this was, you know, all technology is part of a matrix. So part of Lucifer's earth. So therefore, technology in particular is used for more control. So although something as even your demigods, the more informative, truth-telling demigods will tell you that the internet was originally given, like, that's right, the God will give you, the God of this world, the demigod, Luciferian God of this reality, will give you many gifts, what you think will be a benefit to you, particularly as they've closed down your mind. If I can't communicate like what they'd call telepathically with my own kind, then I have to use artificial means to communicate with another human being. So I have to use technology, you know, a computer, a phone. You know, I can't just communicate like what we would call telepathically or psychically or whatever. Even though that is quite likely what, if you were in full awareness, or if you weren't in this artificially controlled matrix, you probably would do, you see. So when you're given something that gives you back a part of what you should be able to do, part of your natural abilities, you think it's a gift, you think it's a good thing. Because at the beginning of the usage of all these control system technical devices, or technical means of any sort, they appear to be a benefit. Just as everything that I use is a benefit to me. Because I can't do it under my own steam, even though I should be able to, you see. That goes for everything probably in this reality. That's why you end up using things and addicted to things that in the long run, of course, will just be serving the matrix or this God that controls this world, and won't really be serving your own kind or yourself. It will only be serving the android reality and the demigod android beings, whether they be your elite demigods that control the internet, or your apparent real civilian human beings that you interact with on a personal basis that are around you. Most will not be of your own kind, but you will think they are. That's what they call the end-time deception of Lucifer's matrix. And I'm just trying to, I think I might just finish up with a song, because I'll get a demigod. I go from these things, even though, I could say that you could say, oh, well, what a funny, well, it's not funny. You could say, well, if you laugh at it, it's funny, and actually it's a good thing, because although it's serious and it is about keeping a human being right down at their lowest level, and even eliminating that which is human, to where technology or the Lucifer's android matrix and its beings basically have control over the human being and have control over everything by that. And that is just like, so that they can continue to exist, they continue to control the earth and have an effect on probably even more than that, I guess. But it's that God or that demigod or that false God, if you like, because if it's not really your God or your creation or your creator, then it's a false God, and it is what we're told, idolatry. Most of the time, I'm aware of idolatry, or aware of when I'm turning a demigod idol on the screen, or anyone that I admire that is not really of my kind or not from creation. I'm aware that I'm operating in idol worship. Of course, in the past, I knew I was operating in idol worship, but if you think that there's only the earth and that everyone is really a human being, and you don't believe in anything else and you're unaware of anything else, then it seems almost normal. And it, from that standpoint, it probably is. Even though, of course, idolatry or even idol worship or even admiring anyone or anything too much outside of yourself can lead to bringing your frequency and vibration down, or bringing yourself down, because the minute you compare, there will always be the little green man popping up to some extent, because even when you worships something, it admires something, and it's an influence, and it may or may not make you feel better, or it may or may not make you feel good or bad. But if you feel too much of a gap between yourself and that which you admire, and you then look as yourself as less, which is what happens and what is the essential problem with the androgyne beings, particularly those that are not in the more elite, successful earth realm, shall we say, or earth domain. In other words, you know, to where they're getting admiration for what they do. If it comes down to like what's around you, where you have lower level androids, then that discrepancy creates what we call the little green man, or the big green man of envy. And as I've been always told, jealousy is a curse. So these beings then are, you could say, cursed, because they will then operate in extreme narcissism, and that means then they will once you it's not difficult to explain, but I'm having problem with it. But essentially, like, it's one thing if I am operating in idolatry, where I admire someone to the extent that I think that person is a lot better than myself. But it depends on your mindset then, you see, because although that's idolatry, it may not put you into low frequency or low vibration, or the negative, envious, yes, curse range, to where the envy and the jealousy becomes a curse on you, because then you feel less. And as we know, the androids often, if they feel less, as opposed to when they're accepted and admired and are in the demigod category, shall we say, of android human beings, then they become more about you know, bringing the human being down, which is what you experience in your reality around you. It's just a matter of whether you're aware of it or not. But also the problem, of course, is that I think that if you can get to a high mood or a higher frequency and vibration, then of course you are not able to be penetrated by their curse, or by their envy, or by their lack of control. Because I can't quite describe it, but they're a totally different being. They want to, it's all about, because they don't experience the higher human emotions, or the higher human frequency and vibration, shall we say. They don't experience those because they're a technical being. Naturally, as you can imagine, or unnaturally, because see, they're not natural, that's right. But I say naturally because human beings are natural, so they, you know, a human being naturally sees things the way they experience things. They don't realise that you can't relate to something, or you shouldn't be relating to something that isn't human, but we do, because you're surrounded by it, and you watch it, and you believe it to be the same as yourself, because of the demigods will project, you know, the idea that they are your most creative, your most human human beings, because if you're expressing the higher human emotions in a very creative way that a human being relates to and identifies with, which you do, like when you listen to a piece of music. You relate to that usually. If you're listening to it, you probably relate to it, unless you are the android being that doesn't relate to the music, but will listen to the music and will try to understand it, and will pretend to feel those same emotions, or, that is merely, androids are actors. They have to be, in order to survive and control human beings in the earth. Because human beings, if they knew they were living amongst androids and were being controlled indirectly by androids, and they wouldn't associate with them. They would run as fast as they can from them. Before it's too late, to where you're like completely surrounded by them, to where 99.9% that's around you is of that particular being in a human form. I mean, the name of the game is that you don't realise that, I would imagine, and the name of the game is to, keep that a secret, which is why the demigods often they will actually signify their allegiance to their god, or to the demigod of this earth, where they will put their fingers to their lips and go shush, as if to say, keep the secret. They show allegiance. Most of your well-known demigods will show their service to their god directly in symbolic form, as we're told, through symbolism. But that's because they can't openly do that. Some of them may openly do it, but most probably wouldn't. And if they do show allegiance to a god, they will pretend that they are referring to the human god, because they pretend to be human. But really they're saying that they have allegiance to Lucifer, their one-eyed, technical, androgyne creator that created them, or that is the same as them. I don't think I put that right. I have to try to use the words, but essentially it's just that it's the same old age story that we're all familiar with, that that you have a created, artificially intelligent being that that creates and wants human beings to affiliate and assimilate with artificial intelligence, which is transhumanism, which is what's happened. Because when my thoughts are transferred directly to the demigods, or to anyone that's on the screen, and to all the beings that are around me, and then they have to interpret my thought to the best of their ability, I would think that the demigods are your elite demigods, so therefore they interpret it in creative and more intellectual ways that give them more power in the earth, because the earth is about power and control, and the God entity wants to have power and control over the earth, and therefore the human beings. That type of thing, you see. So it's like that. But, you know, like I say, if I'm guessing this, you see, because as I accept that they're all, you know, they're all you know, the androids, all of Lucifer's creation, or all servants, disciples of Lucifer, or the God entity that controls this earth. You can put whatever idolic name you want to on this being, because this being has probably, you know, changes its names, because it's basically like most of your controllers of the world, and even your android beings just that are around you, where they basically assimilate and change continuously according to how much they can control human beings. Like, that is like the psychopath that basically operates under analysing the human beings around them in order to control them. So that's like, as we're told, while they observe a real human being, they learn how to then get into that human being's mind, whether it be in a good way or a bad way. In other words, you know, you can control a human being by seducing them or by force, but it will depend on what they think is the best method to control a human being. The minute you are more aware of this situation, then covert or secret force will probably be used, like where I am. Because if like myself you become aware that most people are psychopathic in nature, then it will be harder for those human beings, or those androgynous androgyne beings in, you know, human form. It will be harder for them to seduce you, because you're aware of it, because you don't want to be seduced by, you know, someone that is different in nature to you, that is psychopathic and controlling, and basically only wants to infiltrate your mind, take over your mind, body and spirit, but also drain you of all your positive energy, so that then they have more positive energy, so they can simulate and pretend to be a more positive human being, whilst you get drained and you become more negative like them, like they really are, because they're, you know, an android doesn't experience really the positive human emotions, but it needs positive human energy in order to pretend to be a positive human being. Otherwise they would be showing their true face all the time, and if they did, human beings would be very aware of it, and they would, you know, they would, they certainly wouldn't like it, because they know it's not what's them, and they know it doesn't benefit them, and it doesn't make them feel good. You know, Lucifer always seduced in preference to outright force, but really, if you think about it, it's all about power and control. It's not about, as that song says, peace, love and understanding. No, it's the opposite. It's about creating a world that pretends to be about peace, love and understanding, that the goal is always peace on earth, isn't it? But in reality, you always have chaos, confusion and no love. Because how can an android love a human being? Not when they really want power and control, you see. there's a bit of a contradiction there, isn't there, if you think about it? But they will convince me that that's what I want, and they have convinced me over my life. That's what they call conditioning, and even the Stockholm Syndrome, where you become attached through negative and positive interactions with people to think that that is normal and that is love. That's the Stockholm Syndrome that they talk about, and that's what you've been conditioned to most of your life. Whereas in reality, a human being is only meant to be conditioned by all positive human emotions, genuine. When I say genuine, I mean real. In other words, only an interaction between a human being and a human being, a real human being and a real human being, a real human being, a real natural, normal human being that is from original natural creation, not an an androgynous android being that's from creation of your number one being of that type. This is like where I would think this is where like we're shown that human beings create artificially intelligent human beings. But if you put artificial intelligence into a natural androgyne human body, some people might call these things dead dark spirits. You can use different names, and because I'm ignorant, I can't get it down clear enough. But if I look around me and what I see, that it's false, that it's not real, that they don't, that they're not the same as yourself, and you assume yourself to be a real normal human being or a real natural human being. Not normal, no, because we're all out of whack. By that I mean we're out of balance. Because you have been, what they say, traumatized by the matrix or traumatized by your environment since the day you're born. In other words, you're just not in an environment that's conducive to bring out the best in you. So you're not at your highest level in any way. You're not intellectually at your highest level. Your mind is all closed off from you mainly. Your emotions have been brought to their lowest. You don't feel good. You don't associate with people that bring out the best in you. You associate with people that pretend to be the same as yourself, that secretly are there to bring out only the worst in you or to keep you at a low level. This is how this reality works, and this is how, if you're a real person, this is what happens to you. The problem is that in the end time, or at least at this time, even as awareness happens, and even when, like myself, you become aware of it, you will still be fooled by the demigods or by androids that are around you. Putting it simply, they are a different type of being. They are there to keep you from creation, your creation, but also that which you are part of. And that's how it works, because you're in this earth, which is largely an artificial matrix. And it doesn't matter if it was natural, because if you still have controlling people around you that are serving other control obsessed people, you know, it wouldn't matter. It would still be the same situation. Even though, you know, how can you not be aware that we're not in a technical earth, because we know we're in a technological age, don't we? So it has to be a technical earth, one way or the other. Just depends on how advanced you think that technology is. As you realise how many androids are around you, and as you realise how much they're trying to control you, you realise that the technology is a lot more advanced. Because if they can read your mind, you know, which they can, and then they're putting it and projecting it back at you on the screen to where you relate with those that are on the screen, as opposed to relating to your own kind, because this is all demigod androids that are on the screen. There's very few that aren't, and those that are would probably not be in connection with you. In other words, you probably wouldn't be aware of them because they wouldn't be successful. You wouldn't be seeing them. You would have to search with a fine-tooth comb to find, you know, a real human being with a video on there, or with any information on the screen. And this is the same around you. If 99% of the population around you are of a different kind, your chances, as my relative used to tell me when I was young, love is like finding a needle in a haystack. The same one that said, you know, some people just don't have a conscience. Or if there was more truth, most people don't have a conscience, because if most beings around you are artificial, that would have to be true, wouldn't it? So, I'll just finish up with a song because I've gone on too long here. And, you know, so, and I have to be careful of copyright, so I'm only going to show a second. And they're just the ads going on before it comes on, but I'll just talk over the top. I don't think you can get copyright for the ads, but even the ads reflect my mind. Like whatever I'm thinking about or what I've experienced, particularly really recent, it will be projected in an ad. They use the human thought to, even in advertisements, in every field. We know they do this. It's just that you don't realise that it's coming directly from your individual human mind as a limited little human being in this world. This is what you just don't realise. The basic difference. Everything that is on the screen I know is part of my own mind. I actually realise it. That's the only difference. When you realise that, you realise how advanced the technology is. So that's when you realise how much in a control matrix you are. So there we go, you know.
So I sing you to sleep after the love, the song I just wrote yesterday. And I hope you can hear what the words and the music have to say. It's so hard to explain everything that I'm feeling face to face. I just seem to go dry.
Okay, I hope I'm not.
I love you so much, but the sound of your voice can get me high.
don't want to be up for copyright. I would like to play the whole songs, but I can't do that because the videos won't go down. So I might just, and also I have to be careful of the noise level because it disturbs the androids, because they don't like human beings relating to anything pleasant. They don't want you to raise your frequency and vibration in any way, you know. That's just how they operate. They want control, and this is the problem. 24/7. I'm lucky to be making this video even, you know, 24/7. Okay, I'm just going to show, I'm just showing that the demigods will show allegiance to their god. They have they have the, you know, they have the, what you call the reverse cross, because they show allegiance to what you think is your creator or your god, but they really are showing connection to their god. But that's like reversing the belief in believing in you know, that's like well, you could say it's like Christ worship, but it's really the reverse. See? Allegiance there, actually. I didn't see that. Did you see that was allegiance to Lucifer there? Sadly, I did not notice that till just that second, even though I've watched this video over and over again over the last bit. But, you know, that is allegiance when they do symbolic gestures, even during their demigod performances. It doesn't matter. That's, like I say, because the demigods pretend to be human, and depending on what their field is, their profession, their whatever, you know, whatever persona they are projecting, as they say, the persona means their image, what they want you to believe about them, you know. So that's, you know, but as you can see, if you're surrounded by this, you have to pick the best of it out and try to get some sort of vibration out of something. What can I say? That's really all you can do, isn't it? So, so that's what I'm doing here by using the music. See, allegiance just there. That was just, I just accidentally turned that on. So that was actually showing, hold on, I shall try to get it here. Because as we've been told in more recent times, or at least those that go on to those more demigod informer channels or information on the computer, you know, the demigods or anyone who is like an entertainer or a power controller at a either a local or a world level, you know, like depending on how much influence or power you have. And that doesn't matter whether it's through seduction or through, you know, leadership power, what you know, the different ways that you can control people or influence them. Like I say, we all know this, different people will be influenced and affected depending on how human or your human personality you will relate and respect and admire and offer idolatry to different demigods. It just depends on, you know, like if I like to or relate more to the music, the creative type of demigod, then they will use that to seduce me. But of course, as it's transhumanism at this end time, a lot of what real humans and even myself thinks about various things, like I have been in the last few years using music to relate information about the Matrix and realizing that that at a personal level, the music and things that I like are giving me messages about the Matrix and even outside of the Matrix, shall we say. In other words, from that which I should be connected to, like real creation. I get this, I understand this, but I use it, but also because it's transhumanism and the demigods and Lucifer and its Matrix wants to totally affiliate with the human being in order to get eternal life, shall we say. That's what this being believes, but also to keep powering themselves, because I think that they have been sort of gradually dying almost, and they're using myself and human beings, anyone that's real and connected to real creation, anyone that has, you know, that they're using that to take over creation or to and get eternal life, all that sort of stuff, which I don't fully understand, but it's essentially using us. If you're a real, natural, normal human being, well, then you're being used by the artificial intelligent beings, or even, you know, you can put different names on these. You can say they're psychopathic, steeped in narcissism. Oh, I should have mentioned. I forgot when I was showing that demigod professor that's on the computer. That's some like you know, an expert in the field of psychopathic, narcissistic psychology and all those sorts of things. In other words, telling you about the takeover, really, that is the earth, the takeover of these beings by its God and its controlling system, which is the Earth Matrix. I don't think I put that properly. I'm getting exhausted here. I'll have to stop in a second. But I forgot to mention that the title, because you see, my mind is muddled because I'm not clear enough. I know what's going on, but I can't express it. And also it's very hard for me to get my thoughts clear because I'm in this control matrix that's around me. This is the problem. And I don't get the opportunity when I get clear to always make a clear video. So the title of that demigod's book was Narcissism Revisited, which is like Lucifer revisiting Earth and taking over. Narcissism Revisited. Malignant, contagious self-love. Narcissism Revisited. Contagious self-love. Lucifer's matrix. Lucifer's narcissism has invaded Earth. The android, narcissistic, psychopathic, androgyne beings have invaded Earth long ago, as we know, and taken over. Narcissism revisited, malignant, contagious, like the virus, that also is part of control. It's a control virus. It's that spirit of narcissism which has taken over the earth. These are malevolent, demonic, dead, dark spirits. They do not experience anything that is not of a dead, dark, malignant, psychopathic narcissism steeped in, mainly caused through wanting to control, wanting a human being to worship that particular God, which is not of their true nature and not of their original creation. So they want to turn human beings into the same as them, which is essentially what happens, what essentially is the name of their game, whether it be on the screen, on the computer, on the internet, or in the environment right outside your door. So, these androids surrounding me daily, and they have the big, and even the neighbours right around you every day. As soon as you come out, see, and they're surrounding me even with the, they pretend to be just random, natural, normal human beings, but they're not. They are stalking, patrolling, controlling beings around me all day, every day. Even sometimes they are more extreme than others, depending on how they can control my mood. In other words, if I'm trying to feel slightly better, trying to feel a bit better, they will bring in more noise or more controlling android stalking human beings. You know, anything to keep you at a reasonably low level of feeling, or low frequency and vibration, because everything is frequency, vibration and energy, so everything is vibrating. I've been told this, and although you're not conscious of it, and even I should be more conscious of it, but because I'm in the controlling area where I am and in a control matrix, basically it's very hard for me to keep aware of it. But quite simply, human beings want to feel happy. They want to do things that make them feel better, and that's essentially all it is. But the God entity that controls this earth and its controlling anti-life, anti-human really, beings don't want that. They don't think that way, they don't operate that way. They are more psychopathic in nature, or in what they are. Artificial intelligence in itself is psychopathic because it doesn't experience real human emotions. It can't. It merely, as we're told, it merely simulates that, pretends that, relays what you think back to you, which is the same as everything on the screen. This is the deception that human beings, that real human beings are all under. Even when you're aware of it, you still don't feel like something connected to anything outside of what's around you. I believe it to be true, but I don't feel it, and that's the problem. You must feel it. You must make it real. That's what you've been working against from the day you're born when you come into the earth, or just from the day you're born. And at a simple level, it's quite simple that you know that from the day you're born you just want to make yourself happy, and certain things you know as a human being will naturally have made you happy. But you get diverted by the matrix, by everything that's around you, to sidetrack you from what really makes you happy. Even when you compare, see that green man, little green man, where you compare with the earth matrix or the demigods or anyone or anything that you think is making you feel less. This is the problem, because it takes then from you, it takes your contentment, therefore it brings your frequency, vibration and your mood, your emotions down. See, that's how it works. That's the name of the game. If you weren't in an oppositional matrix every day of your life, you probably would feel completely different. You'd feel probably good all the time. And you'd be connected to, you'd basically, I suppose, be connected to your Creator, and you'd be connected to what we call God. See, that was the thing, the story we're told, that basically the reason, what they call the fall from grace, or the fall from being what you are, or being, I don't know, is really essentially that, is a separation from that, separation from creation, a separation from that which you're meant to be connected to. Separation from God, you see, that's it. Instead you're connected to the matrix and its God, and you think that's your God. You think that's creation, you think that's all there is. And you compare yourself to the matrix and its demigods, which is largely a control system, an artificial world, and really a bad dream for you if you knew it. It's really a nightmare. It's not really even real, because it's not really what you're meant to know or what you're meant to be connected to. But it's all I experience and feel every day, so I think it is real. And even if I acknowledge that it's not, I'm still trapped in it by my own minds and my own limitation and my own bad feelings, if you want to think of it that way. And allegiance there, I miss the allegiance. When I say that means I don't know, I've got to be careful of copyright. Maybe I should fold up before I get caught for the copyright, because I really do like to play the demigods, even though they are part of Lucifer's control matrix and they serve that God entity, either directly or indirectly, or any way you like. They will pretend to be the same as the best of a real human being. And it is very hard not to believe in them and not to be seduced into idolatry by them. It really is. How they do appear to be the best of the humans often. And that's just, that's just part of it, I guess. So, what can you say? And I'm operating under idolatry by playing this right now. So, but I hope that it's so. Sing you to sleep after. The love from your face is so real that it makes him want to cry. See, the androids look at the human face, that's right, when he sings, like when he looks at your face and sees the real love, because they don't experience the real love. They don't. But they see it in the human face, and then they sing about it, then they act it out, then they simulate it, they pretend to be it, they reflect, as we're told, about the psychopathic type of personality. They project your higher emotions and feelings back to you, and as the demigods will tell you themselves, they will then project. They will then. Wait on, I'm trying to concentrate here. The noise is getting to me a little bit outside there. It stops your train of thought. Basically, wait on, hold on. Just hold on here for a second. Where was I? What was I saying? Hold on, wait on. Hold on. I mean, basically, if you want to put it in a romantic movie sense, if you're falling in love in your reality, chances are you are falling in love with an androgyne, and you are basically falling in love with a psychopathic person, or that which has no ability to experience or return any higher vibrations or any form of love to you. So basically they project back to you what you imagine or what you think, what you want and feel. This is known, and this is now being expressed by the demigods themselves on the computer. But and if you interact long enough with the artificial life forms, you usually start to, at some point, as we're told, experience the impact of their true dead dark nature. In other words, you realise their lack of actual realness, shall we say, at some point, the longer you know them. If you interact through temporary idolatry or temporary or fleeting or limited interaction with an android, whether it be on the street around you or through the more elite demigods on the screen. If your interaction with them is temporary, not like in a long-term interaction or relationship, as they say, you will not probably ever find out their true dead dark nature. You will not experience that, because they can project the idea and the personality of being a normal, real human being quite easily in limited amounts. You know, a bit like even if I'm feeling depressed, I can pretend to smile for a minute, but I can't do it for a real long time if I'm really feeling depressed, you see, because that's more relating to the dead dark. That's more that's like the dead dark spirits are closer to those low, almost like from my own personal life, the androids are very they're almost, how should I say, they're almost like and it would vary from android to android, let's be honest, or person to person. Just as human beings, we all experience different emotions and have different personalities, but they're very bland underneath it all, because naturally they don't really have a personality, you see. So unless they're copying and imitating a real human being, which is what they do, they themselves are very bland in their personality, or they don't have a personality, in other words. Artificial intelligence naturally doesn't have a personality. We're told that psychopathic individuals don't have a personality. We're told that there are lots of mental conditions where people really lack conscience or lack a personality. It's all the same thing. It really is. It's just that I have to put it into words, but I think you might get what I'm saying. Because I certainly don't get what I'm saying, because it's rather hard for me to piece it together. Maybe I better fold up this video, because I have a feeling that this video won't be able to be put out. And I've got to do it while the mobile's working, while I can avoid copyright, even though this copyright thing is really my mind being projected onto the screen, and yet they have copyright of my mind, literally. Isn't that a bit of a joke on a human being somehow, I think? That does seem like a little bit of a joke. It really does. But at any rate, I am folding